Hey, how's it going, guys? Stolen here with Raised by Sharks. So, we had the idea what would happen if all the monsters from all the Monster Hunter generations, no pun intended, were to fight in a tournament style, the top 16. Now, some of you may disagree with who are the strongest and who are not, but we also wanted to have some sort of balance on having some status-based monsters, some different elements. We wanted to work in all different types of monsters and not just have, 6 fire types. We also excluded Elder Dragons, Deviants, Variants, Apex monsters, Guild Quest monsters, all those types. We just went with the pure baseline monsters from each one for this one. We have another video coming up if you guys like this one where we do include the Deviants and Elder Dragons and such into that tournament. But for now, these are just regular monsters. We're going to skim through the first round because most of them are pretty obvious. There was a couple of controversial ones in here, but the reasoning is pretty sound once you hear me out. So the first one is Brachydios versus Shogun Centaur. Pretty obvious that Brachydios would whoop his butt, especially considering the fact that Brachydios would probably just destroy the shell on the back of him and then just pound him to death. Rajang versus Betelgeuse, probably going to get a lot of heat for this one because Rajang is clearly one of the strongest monsters in the entire series, especially considering he literally eats an Elder Dragon. That being said, the whole thing with Betelgeuse is that he flies above and drops bombs, or he drops them at his feet. Rajang likes to get up close and personal with his prey, which is going to put him right into Betelgeuse's wheelhouse, and those bombs are going to do a lot of damage to him. Betelgeuse is no pushover himself, and we actually have him winning. Does that mean he's stronger? No, but in the matchup, if the two of them fought, this is the prediction that we had. The next matchup is Kizu versus Yian Garuga. That was the only one that we put handpicked. The rest of them were all randomized, but we wanted to get the two Screamy boys out of the way. They needed to go. I'm sorry. Yian Garuga pretty obviously won that matchup, especially considering the ability to poison and blast fireballs on Kizu, which are his weaknesses. Now, Saragios and Lagiacrus was a little bit of a tough one. We had to get creative here because there's really no precedence for this type of a battle, but Saragios has been seen to kind of just perch up in high places and attack from there, and Lagiacrus, as soon as he would come out of the water, would start to get pestered by him. And it was really tough to figure this one out, but we feel like that gave him the edge. The ability to wait him out, and as soon as he comes on land, pester him to death. Whereas Lagiacrus can't come up at him and doesn't really have any way to fight him when he's in the air. So we gave the edge on this one to Sergios. On the other side, Glavenus and Deviljho, we gave the advantage to Deviljho because Deviljho doesn't really have a severe weakness to fire, and Deviljho can use multiple different elements and apply different blights depending upon the situation. And with that acidic saliva, he would probably nullify Glavenus's different armor capabilities. Again, they were both really tough monsters, but we feel like Deviljho and his insatiable appetite would probably just end up devouring Glavenus in the long run. Tigrex versus Nargacuga. This was actually one of my favorite ones to think about because they're very similar skeletons and they look very similar, but they fight totally differently. Tigrex is very upfront, brute force, brute wyvern, whereas Nargacuga is a stealth speed hunter that could apply bleed and poison in different situations and different variations of him. We gave the edge to Nargacuga because I feel like even though Tigrex could probably kill him in a couple of quick powerful hits, Nargacuga would probably have the advantage through dodging him, hitting him from further away with those tail spikes, and in the end would probably just outmaneuver Tigrex until he, bled him to death, basically. Rathalos versus Zinogre. Zinogre is one of my favorite monsters in the series, so don't get me wrong when I say that Rathalos edges him out, but Rathalos has the ability to fly above Zinogre, and Zinogre doesn't really have much capability to fight back against that. So, all things considered, Rathalos would edge him out. Legiana versus Diablos was actually a really interesting matchup because it meant that Diablos, one of the stronger wyverns in the game, gets eliminated earlier because Legiana is very agile and flies above, whereas Diablos really have no way to attack them. The Flyers seem to have had a lot of advantage in these one-on-one fights. But also, Legiana has ice, which is Diablos' main weakness. We gave the win to Legiana. In the second round, we have the matchup of Brachydios versus Betelgeuse. While I will say I think Betelgeuse is stronger, in this matchup, the only thing I could see happening is Brachydios hitting him with bombs explode on him, killing him over time. We gave the edge to Brachydios, but I will say I do really think that Betelgeuse is stronger, the same way I thought that Rajang was stronger than him. and that Rajang probably would have beat Brachydios. But it was just the way that the matchups ended up, and it was fun to see how it was. I'm going to be realistic and not just pick my favorite or who the strongest is. If they really were to fight, Brachydios really might beat Betelgeuse because of that. Now, on the bottom tier, you have Saragios and Yian Garuga. I think Yian Garuga, if it were like the Deadeye version, would probably be able to beat Saragios, but just the plain version, Saragios is definitely the much stronger flyer, much stronger fighter, faster, more agile, more damaging. Saragios would beat Yian Garuga, 100%. On the other side, Deviljho versus Nargacuga. You know, Nargacuga would probably give Deviljho a run for his money, be able to hit him, but I feel like Deviljho and his ability to expand his muscles to create an armor out of pure muscle would really nullify his needles, because those little tail spikes that he would shoot into Deviljho would really just be like that, little tiny needles that when he would flex would basically just pop right out of him. Deviljho's insatiable appetite would once again overcome Nargacuga by just pounding him to death, and, you know, once he gets hungry, there's really no stopping him. Rathalos versus Legiana. I think this one's pretty obvious. Rathalos is the king of the skies for a reason. If they ever matched up, while Legiana is a little bit more agile, Rathalos is by far stronger, has the elemental advantage. I mean, there's really nothing more I could say about that. Rathalos would beat him. Now, finally, in the semifinals, you have Brachydios versus Saragios, and Deviljho versus Rathalos. Brachydios, we have beating Saragios because, while Saragios would have to come in close, Brachydios is not slow for a Brute Wyvern. As soon as Saragios comes in close, he would hit him with that slime, which would probably slow him down, maybe even knock him out of the air. It would be able to blow him up while he's flying around trying to circle above. We give the edge to Brachydios, but not by a lot, and honestly, this is one that we expect a lot of backlash for because it's another one of those fights that really there's no way to judge it. While some of them you could really see it playing out in your head, this one was a little tougher. But again, we think that if the slime kind of stuck to Saragios' wings, it would take him down and then he would just kind of pound Saragios to death. Deviljho versus Rathalos. This one was probably the hardest one to decide out of all of them because Rathalos has the ability to fly above. He has the ability to use Dragon, Poison, Fire. Those are huge advantages over Deviljho, especially the ability to fly overhead and just kind of starve Deviljho out. But the thing is that he is the king of the skies. He's aggressive. He's going to come in and try to mark his territory and try to defend his territory. And when he does, all it's going to take is Deviljho to get his mouth on him one time. And you've seen what he did to Betelgeuse. He just picks him up in his mouth and tosses him around like a rag doll. If Deviljho gets a hold of Rathalos one time, it's over. And that's why we gave the edge to Deviljho. Because while Rathalos could wait him out, he's way too aggressive of a monster and he's going to want to protect his territory. And it's going to be his own downfall. Okay, in the final matchup, the championship, Brachydios versus Deviljho. Out of all the monsters, I did not think that these were going to be the two that would get there. Personally, I would have picked Rajang from the left, and maybe Diablos or Tigrex from the right side. But then once I started doing the matchups, those one-on-ones were really killer for some monsters. And this is who we were left with. Deviljho, we have edging out Brachydios. The reason that we have Deviljho beating Brachydios is because they're both up-close, brute-fighting monsters that are going to just try to overpower them. Brachydios has a little bit of edge in speed, but Deviljho has a massive edge in brute strength. When he comes up close to try to get with those slime attacks, Deviljho is going to hit him with that mouth, hit him with that tail, those dragon breath attacks. Deviljho is a very strong monster, and again, those slime attacks are going to just be like barrel bombs to a Deviljho. They're not going to do a whole ton, because as soon as he flexes, all of his muscles become like an inner layer of armor. So you'll singe that outer layer of skin, but you're not going to do a whole lot to a Deviljho. And as soon as he gets angry and as soon as he gets hungry, he will eat literally everything. He will eat the tail right off of a Brachydios without hesitating. Brachydios will probably put Deviljho on the brink of death, but Deviljho is going to come away, and he's going to come away with his meal like he always does. He does it to every ecosystem he enters. He eats his way through the whole thing, and then moves on to the next food chain. And that's exactly what he would do to Brachydios and every other monster in this tournament. So guys, that's all we have. Let us know what you think about each of the matchups, who you think would have won each matchup, who you think would have been the champion. Tell us how stupid we are with our picks. Tell us how great we are with our picks. We'd love to hear your opinions on this, because the whole point of this one was to introduce a conversation. None of these monsters have really fought each other in the game. There's no precedence for it. So it was fun to think about who we think would win based on the type advantages, based on elemental advantages, and just our own imaginations. But we'd really love to hear what you have to think about this. Thanks for watching Raised by Sharks. Remember to leave a like and subscribe for more. And pretty soon, depending upon how you guys receive this, we might be putting out a version of this tournament with Elder Dragons, deviants, all that kind of stuff. So if you want to see any monsters involved at the tournament, please let us know which ones you would like to see in it and who you think would win. We might be using some of those ideas for when we do our next tournament. Have a good one.